ERA. Well, I got to be honest with you. I'm gloating today a little bit just because I'm really happy for our good friend Bruce Bochy. Sent Bochy a message last night. He got back to me. Very excited about this man and what he has accomplished in his first year with the Texas Rangers. You know, I've been around the big league ball club here in San Diego for many, many years, and I've got a lot of friends in the Padre organization. I got a lot of friends in baseball. But Bruce Bochy, I don't know if there's a man in baseball that I hold in higher esteem than Bruce Bochy. Your reasons. Number one, he's an outstanding human being. Number two, he's an incredible leader. Number three, he always made us members of the media feel a part of the ball club, even though we had a job to do. He never was a guy that shied away from talking with us when we had a tough question to be asked or answered. He's just a great guy all the way around. And I was saddened, to be honest with you, when he walked away from the San Francisco Giants. And really, the reason he walked away from the Giants is really kind of the same thing that happened to Bob Melvin with the Oakland Athletics. They were going to go through a rebuilding mode, and they didn't want to put their veteran managers who'd done a good job for their organization through that. And that's why Boch left. I mean, Boch probably could have stayed there. He could have, if he really wanted to stay, he could have stayed. But he saw the writing on the wall. Farhan Zaidi had come in the year before, and as soon as he came in, it was kind of known that, you know what, they're going to go a different direction. They honored Boch in every conceivable way up there in the Bay Area. But I knew from talking to him, and I remember the last trip that he came in with San Francisco that year, and I said to him at the batting cage, Boch, you're not done. I go, you're going to be back. He goes, Coach, I got to take a year off because I promised him I'd take a year off. He took that year off begrudgingly. But you know what? I think it was good for Bruce Bochy for a variety of reasons. Number one, he'd been involved in baseball forever and ever and ever. Over 40 years. He'd never had a summer off. And he got 3 summers off. He kept his word to his wife. He reconnected with his 2 sons and their families. And got grandkids now, and really enjoyed life, had a great time, sold the house here in Poway, moved to Nashville, did a little traveling here and there. And to watch him last night, and all the memories that I have of Bruce Bochy, him and I and Kevin Towers sitting in the Padre clubhouse at the old San Diego Stadium and sharing a beer after a game on a Saturday night and talking ball. I mean, I've got so much love for Bruce Bochy. And then in 2009, when I had a heart attack with the San Francisco Giants in town, I had the heart attack. We traced it back to about 5 in the morning. I remember I was down there talking to Tim Flannery and Boch on Friday night, and I had the pregame and postgame show that night, and I said, hey, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, I never made it to the ballpark the next day. And that was a weird, strange day, really weird. I came home that night from the ballpark at 1 o'clock in the morning. I stayed up to do an interview because Bob Scanlon and I were doing a radio show the next morning called I can't even remember the name of the show now. I'm so kind of emotional talking about Boch. But I did the show with Bob, and I remember walking in, and I got there about 15 minutes before the show, and that was not the norm for me. I normally got to shows a lot earlier than that. And Bob walked in, he goes, well, it's kind of nice you could make it this morning. I go, Bobby, I don't feel too good. And so we did the show for 2 hours. In between breaks, I was putting my head on the table and my arms out, trying to just relax. He goes, do you have any numbing in your arms and all that? And I go, no. So then I went home. I drove home, and I was watching the UCLA-Stanford football game. And I remember I was supposed to do a show that night. I wasn't going to do the pregame show, which I normally did. I normally did the pregame, and then I was off for the postgame, and I didn't have to work on Sunday. But I was doing like 17 radio shows a week at that time. And I remember I was watching the Stanford UCLA game, and I was going to go and I was going to do a talk show with Randy Jones and Dave Roberts that night. And my wife goes, you know what? I think we better go to the hospital. I go, nah, yeah, I want to go to the ballpark. I go, they got great paramedics. If I don't feel good, I'll go to them. She goes, nah, we're going to go to the ballpark. We're going to go to the hospital. So we get to the hospital, and about 45 minutes after I get there, I find out I'd had a heart attack, and they're taking me in, and they're putting 2 stents in my chest. And the doctor, who I didn't know, doctor who's still my cardiologist, Dr. Martin Charlotte, he comes in, I'm laying on the table, and you got that light looking down. He goes, "Hey, John, I heard you talking about the Toronto Blue Jays this morning on the radio program." And next thing you know, I woke up in recovery. Well, I wake up, and my daughters were keeping track of all the messages, and Kevin called and Bochy called. But where I want to go with this story was about 2 weeks later. The season's over. And this, again, was in 2009. My wife and I wanted to get out of town. I needed mentally to get myself back together. Physically, I was okay. I probably could have come back on the radio, within a couple of weeks. But mentally, I wasn't sure I was ever going to come back to radio. I'd had enough. At the radio station I was working at, a couple of my friends got fired, and I was upset about that because I'm a team guy, and, you win together, you lose together. And there were just a lot of things bugging me. So we went over to Yuma. My brother at the time had a home in Yuma. And so we went over there, and I'm riding bikes, and I'm walking and swimming a little bit and trying to get myself, back together. And we decided to go to a movie one day. And so we're walking into the movie. Now, this is about 2.5 weeks after I had the heart attack, off season for baseball. And as I'm walking into the movie, my phone rings. And I answer it. I go, "Hello?" He goes, "Coach, this is Bochy. Just wanted to call and check in on you, make sure you're doing okay." Now, that's the kind of guy Bruce Bochy is. I mean, Bochy knew about the heart attack because he was in town at that point in time, and Flan were in town. And, 2.5 weeks, a lot of ball players and man, they go on their vacations. They're thinking about 38 other things. But he thought enough of me to call. And that's the kind of guy Bruce Bochy is. I mean, I had tears in my eyes last night seeing him run around with his little championship cap on and talking to Ken Rosenthal. It was really cool. And then I see, Will Venable down there hugging him. We've had Will on the show. We had Bochy on the show during the season. Chris Young's up there hugging his wife. I mean, we got a lot of Padre flavor and good guys. I mean, Chris Young could be a little bit snarly at times, but he's a good guy. I remember one time when he first came to the Padres, Chris Young was at a hockey game in Washington. He was watching the Washington Capitals. And he said, "Hey, Coach, I will..." And I didn't know him real well at the time. He goes, "Hey, when this hockey game's over," because there was a time difference, he goes, "I'll call you." He called me from the steps of the arena after the Washington Capitals played that night. And then Nick Hundley, we've had him on. He's part of the organization. I mean, I'm pulling so hard right now for the Texas Rangers because they got a bunch of good dudes. Bochy, Chris Young, Nick Hundley, Will Venable. Doesn't get any better than those four guys, folks. They're marvelous people. Because they care about other people. They're not me type people. And to see Bruce Bochy back in the game makes me feel awful good. Okay, we're going to get to your phone calls today.